Thank you for joining me. It's always fairly nerve-wracking starting off following a professional speaker working with Salesforce, but it does mean that I can deliver my content now and then enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the good speakers. So thank you. My talk is called Bring Your Users With You on the Trail to Lightning. If I do this, let me know. I'm good with that lapel one, but we've got to have the room to keep my hands still. So the reason I'm talking about this is that as we move to Lightning, it's not just about the technical challenges, it's about the change management piece. So this morning we're going to look at developing a change management strategy with Lightning in mind. So that's me, Louise Lockie. I am Head of Salesforce Support and Administration at a company called Wilmington PLC, which is a Salesforce customer and a professional services company with its head office in London, where I'm based, as you can probably tell, but with 25 offices in 8 different countries, one of which is actually Paris. I'm not making a stop there this week. I am also a co-leader of the London Women Tech User Group. I am very proud to be a Salesforce MVP, and at the moment I'm 3-time certified. I've got my administrator, advanced administrator, and platform app builder certifications. Obviously, I'm on Twitter, who isn't? I'm louder, yeah, thank you. and I do have a blog as well.
So from growth protection, 25 minutes, my name is Jan.
So, as I say, today we're talking about switching to Lightning and what's involved in that switch. Now I'm going to leave the technical side, building Lightning components, changing your Visual Force pages, your URL hacks and your JavaScript buttons to the developers and other people talking today. But what I'm going to focus on is the change management piece, because we won't get that on our own. We can't drag them kicking and screaming to Lightning, no matter how much we might want to. And so now, I find that with the 2 releases we've had so far this year, and Winter 18 just around the corner, I think it's fair to say we're nearing parity, feature parity between the two UIs. And I don't know about you, if you've read the Winter 18 release notes, read them, or read some of the great blog posts that the community members put out, but I think that you'll probably agree with me that we were hard pushed to find classic only enhancements. The enhancements are all coming to Lightning. And I think that's Salesforce's way of nudging us towards Lightning. They simply aren't going to invest their developers' time in changing the UI in Classic. They really are going to make all the enhancements in Lightning and get us there by stealth, if you will, and by tools such as today's. And so this is, I feel that now, is with more and more companies and their administrators, like me, are thinking this is the time to make the switch. But we can't just focus on the technical challenges. We need to focus on the hearts and minds of our users and making that a painless and easy process. So how do we convince our users to go from this, when we threaten them with a whole new design,
so we're creating
to this? How do we get them to embrace the change that we're offering? That's what we're going to talk about this morning. So here it is, and it is undoubtedly the more aesthetically pleasing UI. It will, to a certain extent, sell itself, but it won't do the whole lot. Because no matter how much our users might look at it and say, that is a good looking system, that's bringing it up to modern day, it's making my life easier in certain ways, we can't get away from the fact that it looks different. And when they come in on Monday morning and log in, it will look very different to what they're used to. And that change will impact their day-to-day. It will have an effect on how they do their job. And so they'll very soon focus on that rather than how it works. We are removing familiarity and we are changing the functionality, and that is key. We need to start the education process from scratch, and that can't be underestimated. So, we need to plan ahead, believe it or not. We need to have a strategy in mind that makes the transition as easy as possible, as painless as possible. we need to bear in mind what we're changing. And we need to follow the steps that I'm going to outline now.
In the configurator, all the options will be divided into sections.
So here we are. We're going to develop a change management strategy. This is my graphic. We're going to fill in the blanks.
Already put some logic within those categories.
My change management strategy is an 8-point strategy as a step-by-step plan to adoption. Should I say awesome adoption?
And the first feature, storage.
So we're going to start at number 1, obviously. And I think that this is the most important step. And I also think it's the step that people skip most. Before we make this big change that's going to change the day-to-day of our users and how they're using the system, we need to have them in mind. And I don't just mean we're making the change so that they can use a better, more intuitive, visually pleasing interface. I mean that we are understanding how we are interrupting their day and changing their day by changing the way they do their job. And I think if we can put ourselves in our users' shoes and bear that in mind, as I say, each step of the way, then we are going to make it a smoother process for us all. We could of course say, the boss says it's happening. We could of course say they'll get used to it, and they will, but that's not going to be much fun for anyone, and that's going to be a lot tougher, and it's not considerate of your users. We think of our colleagues come in and spend 30 hours, 40 hours, 40 hours a week, sat at desks or on their mobile devices using Salesforce, our heavy users. We change that and we make them less familiar with it. We make them have to think about every step they're taking because it's not familiar and it's not what they've done for the last 10 years. Then that could have an impact on them personally. We all know that if we're not happy at work, it can affect the rest of our personal lives. And so be empathetic and just use that and apply it every step of the way.
This price is included in our list price, so it comes with.
But we do need to document and assess the change we're making. We need to make sure we are aware of who's being impacted and the scale of it from a role point of view. So we should look at it role by role, process by process, screen by screen. Now, there's a number of reasons why we can do this. But if we can assess which roles are going to see the most change, that can feed into our strategy of where and who we tackle first. So we all know with lightning, it doesn't have to be, shouldn't be, a big bang, confetti moment, of whoosh, there we go, Monday morning, there it is. We can bring our users in, group by group, role by role. And by completing an assessment of where the changes lie, what interfaces are going to be different and how different, then that can feed into our overall strategy. So to show you an example of that, very basic. We can have 3 different roles down the side. We've got management, sales users, and our marketing users. And look at each part of the system they use. What will not change at all? Where will there be minimal change? And where will there be significant change? If we find that, say in this instance, management just use reports and dashboards and there's a minimum change in that, then that could be the green light, that could be a quick win. Get your management on Lightning first, get them being wowed by the new dashboard with the extra columns and the extra functionality, which will then help you along the road further down the line. But where if you've got your sales users, where just navigating around the screens they have to navigate and adding, say, opportunity products, such as in my org, that will significantly change, well then, there's got to be a lot more planning going into that. There's got to be a lot more thought, and perhaps don't have them coming in first. So, I wish we all had orgs with just 3 roles in, but you can see from doing something like that, it can feed into the whole process. What I also recommend is that you build out a day in the life for each of your types of users and work through the different processes that they have in an average day or an average week and map those out now, today, and map those out tomorrow in the lightning
last
world.
one that we will add.
That again will give you a really good idea of how much is changing and what the job you have ahead of you is. Also, those notes you've developed, those process flows, they become really good end user guides. You've done a part of your job for yourself then, and you can use those guides and deliver and give those guides to the users so they can say, right, okay, step 3 now is press this button, step 3 in Lightning is click on that tab. And so they can really map today versus tomorrow. And you've saved yourself a job with the documentation. Step 3 is communicate. Now, I know communication is something that has to be on every single strategic plan we have in our businesses, but it really is important. It's not just the intention to communicate, it's to build out a plan that sits alongside your project milestones. So make sure you've got something to say when you communicate, and make sure you tell people what the timetable is and when you will be communicating. Because what that'll also do is that reassures them that you're on track, that the project is succeeding, that we're hitting the milestones we should be hitting, and we're going to hit the overall milestone. But of course, if it doesn't go to plan, then communicate that as well. Be transparent. If there's suddenly a month delay, there's a month delay. Don't let them get to the day they think everything's changing and find that it's not. Keep communicating. And as with any communication plan, use different methods. I'm a massive fan of Chatter, but I know that my 1,200 Chatter users in my org, a fraction of them actually log in and look at it, or have the desktop app or the new Windows 10 app. They just don't. They've probably even turned off their email alerts because they don't want to hear about the bake sale or the fund run or the charity initiative, or they just love it. So don't just communicate through one method.
Yeah, this one.
I'm not saying that we use a tin cup, but make sure that you put it on round robins of different types, emails, on notice boards, whatever the means your company has. Use the different means. In my company, my CEO has a weekly newsletter in which he updates the business on initiatives and different parts of the business with businesses all around the world, and so it goes to everyone. And so, if you've got similar, put it on there, because it does two things then. It's getting to more people, because they're thinking, oh, the big boss has emailed, I'll read that one. And then also, you've got the executive backing coming from it being delivered by him. So, so just bear that in mind, and make sure that you keep it regular and you stick to the plan. You announce how you're going to communicate, what deadlines, do that. But also remember, you can use it as a means of telling people how well it's going, and you really give them the confidence this is a well thought out project that's going to plan. Going into the project knowing what success looks like. There's no point you working to a plan and thinking, if I hit December 31st, I've got 100% of my users with 100% adoption. They're not smart. That's not a smart objective. That's not a smart success metric. Make sure you've got smart. I forget what smart is. Specific, measurable, actionable. There we go. Realistic, time-based. I think there's lots of different versions, but make them smart objectives. But also make sure, as I say, make sure you're applying the right deadlines to yourself, to what your management has. So if you've got executive sponsorship that's saying we want to have 100% by 100%, but make it realistic. So we are saying we'll have all of our management users online by the end of the financial year, and we will verify that and encourage that there's adoption for 50%. But make sure you know what your target is, and make sure everyone else knows what your target is. So you can be accountable for it, but you also know whether you've succeeded. We've mentioned stakeholders a couple of times, but we do need to make sure a project this big, and moving to Lightning is a significant project from resource and time and money from the development side, that it does have your stakeholders backing. and that's visible backing, going back to the communication piece. But don't just focus on the stakeholders, because that's the stick. That's just them saying we've got to do it. And as I said, going back to number one, empathy, that's not the way to bring our users with us. So instead, focus on getting some of their peers on side. Have an early adopters group. Have people who can become your champions. People who can over the water cooler might say, oh yes, don't worry, Salesforce is changing, it's going to look great. It's really, some of the steps, we're going to have fewer steps to make our sales. People listen to their colleagues, their peers, a lot more than they listen to what's coming from on high, or what's coming to say their IT, wherever the Salesforce department sits. So make sure you get them on side, and make them feel special. Make sure that they are testing and using the system early, and they really will then be advocates and champions for the system. You can't do it on your own.
It comes with a warranty, all the rest.
And training. Now, do not underestimate training the users on the new system. My business recently acquired a new business, and they had been using Salesforce under their old owners. And so I think there was a certain amount of expectation that they wouldn't need much training because they knew Salesforce. But we all know that the two orgs don't look alike unless they're out of the box, just standard CRM functionality. No two Salesforce instances are identical. And that's the same from a classic, same org, classic to lightning. Invest the same amount of time and put aside the resource to train users, if you were, for the first deployment, because they are going to have to relearn everything. It is going to be an education piece, and you need to make sure from a budget point of view and from the impact of users being away from their desk doing their day-to-day job is taken into account. So get that in your, as I say, the measurability, your timetable, add that all in. It's one of the obstacles that you need to get past at the beginning, to make sure you've got the resource and the time to train those users to that extent.
A contract needs to have a start date.
And that's the same with support.
So that's why without a start
this isn't a new system. Now I'm just going to go and work on something else. You've got to make sure you've got the time and the resource again to sit with those users and remind them of where they go after they press the next button, because it's different to it was yesterday. They're not, I'd love to say when I train users, I train them so well they never forget, but that's not the case. That can't ever be the case. So you need to make sure you've got the resource. And that's when it comes back to management, making sure the change to Lightning is properly budgeted and properly timetabled to allow for all of this. Make sure you've got those end user guides. The day in the life that we mapped out at the beginning, again, transfers very nicely into an end user guide. Make sure they've got that to reference, and they've got that system. Make sure that when you pick your super users, you've got some in every team, so they can sit there and they can do the immediate, no, you click on there, you've gone to the wrong tab. Cover it that way. Make sure you're not just leaving them. If you're in an international business like mine, I can't be in every office at the same time, and I haven't got a team that big that I've got. We've got 25 offices. I haven't got a team of 25. There's not one in every office. So we have to do things remotely. So you have to make sure you've got all the bases covered. Give them documentations, videos, anything you can to show them, we can even do like 2-3 minute GIFs now, can't we, of people navigating around the screen. Things like that, really quick and easy, that you can leave with them to remind them, but it will support them as they start using the system. And don't forget to have a retrospective. You're going to not do all this all in one go. As I said earlier, you might get your execs on first, and then you get your marketing users, then your support staff, then your admin staff, blah, blah, blah. So make sure for each round you have a retrospective. We all know what went well, what didn't go well, what would you change, how could you do it better. But also including that, what went well, publicise that. Use Chatter, use your communication channels to say, we now have the first 20 users on Lightning, here's some of the feedback from them, tweak the training guides, change the amount of time you have between training and go live. Just adapt and don't just stick to the original plan just because you've got the end of stage 1 from it.
So, where are we?
So we have the blanks filled in now.
So I didn't.
We've understood the impact we're having on our users. We're bearing them in mind each step of the way, and we're going to consider the disruption that we're causing and the time investment it will take from them to learn the new system. We are fully assessing the scale of the change. We're all going to have a totally different prospect ahead of us for each and every time we do this. Every org is different. Assess it, complete the documentation, role by role, process by process, screen by screen. Communicate early, often, be transparent. Measure and in your plan, know what success looks like and know what you've got to achieve. Also in that, make sure you're doing your timetable and your plan, eradicating and getting ahead of the obstacles from day one. You do things like find out when the busiest period for each business is. Make sure you avoid those times. Make sure you've got the resource you need for the training and support. Make sure you've got the budget. Make sure you've got the expectation from the individual managers that their staff's going to be out of the office for a certain amount of time. Engage with people of all levels, from the top down. The peers will be your advocates and your champions. Train and support your users as you would a whole new deployment, as if they were new to Salesforce. If you start off on that basis and they take to it really quickly, great, you've saved everyone's time, you've overachieved rather than underachieved. And keep reviewing the process, keep changing it, keep making it better as you learn from each round of the change management process. Now we're in a world where there are resources to help us migrate to Lightning everywhere we look. So I've just highlighted a few here. Obviously in your org itself you've got the readiness check, the tools that you can recommend you keep running to see as the new enhancements come out and the new releases come out, what you've got left to do. The Salesforce admin team are actually having a month of Lightning this month, and so there's lots and lots of content on their website at the moment. Obviously Trailhead, I think we're going to hear about Trailhead all day today. There's lots of badges, including a new super badge called Migrate to Lightning. And there's the Lightning Now group on the success community, and there's the Lightning Now tours that are happening. So I think there's one in Paris next week, I believe. There's one in London the week after. So I'm going to go along to the London one and hopefully learn a lot there, and recommend that you look out for them as well. But I believe lots of the resources are on the success community group. And of course today, lots of sessions today are going to give us valuable information to help feed into our migration.
And of course it comes with revenue recognition.
So that's the end of my talk, and I think I'm on time. Well, according to my clock, we've got 1.5 minutes for give or take. But if anyone's got any questions, yes.
This could be more
watch out, billing, it's accounting. It stops here. So
Hi. This is maybe more related with your personal experience. So, the first impression when you were starting to use it from Classic Salesforce to Lightning is that it's taking longer to load. You have any personal tip or trick maybe to convince your user about
Well, thank you. So yeah, the loading time of Lightning has been talked about a lot over the years. My experience is that it's a lot quicker since summer 17, and I think winter 18 it's going to be a lot quicker as well. I think that with any process where there's pros and cons, you've got to focus on the pros. So if they're saying it's taking longer to load, fingers crossed we'll get to a point where it's not taking longer to load. I think we're nearly there. You focus on what works for them, where their wins are instead. So yeah, I appreciate it takes a bit longer to load. However, it takes you a lot less time to get to contract out, because we've made streamlined that process, or we're using the Kanban and you can just drag and drop your opportunities into the different stages, so that saves you 3 clicks per opportunity. And I think that's what you've got to put, is swings and roundabouts, that translates, but there's pros and cons to everything, and where they say I don't like X, say yeah but you love Y. And see if that swings it for them.
Terminal, but I think that's from within Salesforce.
Anyone else? I'm upsetting the camera, so but I'm getting steps.
Sorry for the classic.
Does Lightning support custom console app?
The custom console app,
What was the most
I think they're coming, are they now?
No. What was the most complicated
Does
part
Lightning
in the configuration?
the custom console app?
Managed package.
Chris, do you know? Sorry, I'm picking on you.
So Lightning service console came in summer.
It came in summer, didn't it? Yeah. There's definitely the consoles. Sorry, I'm picking on MVP saying.
So Summer brought the Lightning service console. So what I don't know is whether your existing custom console can just be ported over, maybe. But I don't think it would take a lot to rebuild it now with the Lightning service stuff, which has got some cool things like keyboard shortcuts and maybe some actual wins.
Is the most difficult part. But if you do that right.
So we think so, because we know that the Summer brought the service console app. But what Chris is saying could hear is that with the new design system, it should be a lot easier to build it. Okay, well thank you everyone. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I'm obviously going to be around all day if anyone wants to follow up at all. But enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.